May I see a show of hands? How many people in this room have ever dreamt of wearing spandex? Great. How about a cape? Excellent. Underpants on the outside. I hope when I'm done talking today that your desire to do so will be greater. Now, I know there are superheroes in this room. I know it as a fact. Look around you. They're here. They often want to be anonymous. You can't always recognize who they are. But if you look at your neighbors and try to figure out who they are. I see a few hands shaking. If you can agree that these people are in the room here, if you can look around and know in your heart that some of the people in this room are superheroes, then you may be one yourself. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life, about experiences that I've had, and the person I've become because of those experiences. Something I've learned is that one person can make a difference. Now, I know a lot of superheroes. I've met the Fantastic Four, there's Mr. Fantastic, and there's Thing, and all those people. I've met a whole bunch of the Avengers, Thor, Loki, Captain America, those guys. I know the Hellboy, Batman, Master Legend, Rocketeer, all these guys. I've spent more time with Spider-Man than I can remember. He's cool, he's a good guy. And the reason that I have met these people is because I'm a photographer, as you said, and my job is to photograph these actors in costume, and the studios use the pictures to make movie posters. It's a great, great gig. I get to go all over the world. I meet and work with some incredibly talented people, and when I drive down Sunset Boulevard, I get to see my pictures painted on buildings and on billboards. So it's great, right? The fact is that some time ago I realized that there was something missing in my life. There was something that I needed to do. I needed to somehow be not so concerned with the life I was living, but do something for people outside of my community, something that would help others in some way. At about this time, I was reading Rolling Stone magazine, and I came across this article. It was called The Legend of Master Legend. Master Legend is identifying himself as a superhero. Master Legend, well, he's got a proper lair, a mobile called the battle truck. He's got a sidekick on the left in red, the Ace. And Master Legend and the Ace are running around Florida. They're helping people in need, people that are living on the streets. They're doing toy drives with Team Justice at Christmas time. They're all around good guys. They're just running around as superheroes. Cool. I found out from this article that there were more than 100 people, like-minded costumed activists that were in the country. Mr. Extreme, superhero, Thanatos. You guys, there's really superheroes. There's really superheroes. How exciting is this? I'm like, I have got to meet these people. I got to meet them. So what do? I start doing some research. And at that time, I suddenly found myself booked to do a photo shoot in Vancouver. Who's in Vancouver, you may ask? Well, Thanatos is in Vancouver. I reached out to him. I wrote to him on his MySpace page. All right. And I write and I say, Thanatos, will you come into my photo session? I'd like to photograph you. And he's, yeah, he'll roll in. So the day of the shoot arrives, and as I'm finishing the last pictures of the day with my cast, I look over from the corner of this large industrial space that we're working in, this big black room, lit only by my little studio strobes. And I see in the corner a truck door, a loading door, open up, and it's the glowing sunlight, and there he is. He's like 2 meters tall. He's wearing these boots, this duster jacket. He's got a utility belt on, right? He's got a cap on, full mask. There he is. Cool, right? All right. So he comes over. I only have 15 minutes with him before they tell me I have to be done shooting. And so he jumps on my set, and the guy starts moving around doing all these superhero poses like the best stuntman I've ever worked with. And it hits me right then and there. I say, I got to figure out a way to make Hollywood-quality movie posters out of these guys. So after we were done shooting, we went off to the side, and he told me about what he did. There was no skin showing. I couldn't tell anything about him except that he was tall and fit. Turns out he was 63 years old. And Thanatos told me that he would go out at 3 o'clock in the morning onto the intersection of Hastings in Maine. This is the center of the poorest zip code in all of Canada. People are dying on the streets there virtually every day. He would go out at 3 o'clock in the morning because that's when the shelter systems were closed. If you were out in the rainy weather of Vancouver and it was 3 a.m., you were out for the night. He took the name Thanatos, which is, of course, the Greek god of death, because he wants to mock the concept of death. He's there to provide supplies to people to get them through just one more night. Wow. So, I go back to Los Angeles, and because he and his very close friend Geist from Minnesota, another awesome guy, by the way, they're among the most respected members of this nascent community of costumed activists. And they helped me put together a photo shoot. 4 weeks later, I've got 20 of these guys in a studio. It's the biggest meeting of real-life superheroes the world has ever seen, and they couldn't be more excited. They hadn't met each other before. They all had something very similar in common, but they had never met. You couldn't walk through the studio without tripping over one. It was great. It was awesome. I had 30 volunteers that worked that day, all based on the stories that I had told them about the activities of these superheroes. It was a great day. I added a portrait collection. I wanted to do portraits so we could see their faces, or masks in most cases. But I wanted to be able to look into their eyes. Of course, that meant I got to go back to Vancouver. Thanatos needs to be in this collection. So, fortunately, we go to Vancouver a lot. I found myself going up there, and Thanatos came in. I got his portrait. I got his wife, too, Lady Catacomb. She is such a joy. This woman is amazing. After this photo session, we stepped aside again. He told me he had a story to tell me. He said, I met a woman under a bridge. Her name was Rose. And she said to me that she had been homeless since she was 15 years old. Rose was 80. And she knew where he took his name when he introduced himself. And she said, Thanatos, won't you dance with me? I'd like to dance with death before I die. So there under the bridge at 3 in the morning, Rose and Thanatos danced a waltz. He told me a week later she was hospitalized, and a week after that she died. I know in my heart that this tender embrace from this gentle man made a profound effect on her experience in her final days. He handed me a card. He said, I give this to the people I meet on the streets. It says, I do what I can where I can, the Dark Avenger, Thanatos. He gives people that he meets this card that says friend. And he gave me this card that day, and I've had it with me every day since. It's a reminder that simple gestures can make a profound effect on people's lives and the power of the individual. Back in Los Angeles, I had a crew of people, all volunteers, that had grown to 100 now. Every imaginable portion of the community that makes movie marketing was contributing at this point. Music was being written, websites were being built, writers were doing interviews. It was a large team effort. And we had finished 3 of the posters. We had Regenzi done, and Superhero, and Geist, all finished. There was much work ahead. But as I came back, I realized I needed to understand why these people would do this. Why are they going out? Instead of spending time with friends, family, or just sitting there watching the television, why go out? Well, I started talking, and I heard a very common theme in why they would do what they do. Kitty Genovese. I heard that name over and over again, and I'm sure most of you have heard her name. In 1964, Kitty Genovese was coming home from a late shift, working as a manager at a bar. She was attacked. She was stabbed twice. A man across the street opened his window and said, "Hey, leave that girl alone." And then he shut his window. The assailant ran off. He was captured, and he said that he didn't think the guy that had opened his window was going to do anything. And that's why he was able to come back, and he found her, and he murdered her. There were reports of 38 people that heard her cry for help, and nobody did anything. It became known as the bystander effect. I don't want to get involved. It's not my problem. Someone else will fix it. There's a story of a man that died in 2010. His name is Hugo Alfredo Tailliax. This story is very similar. Early one morning, he was walking and he witnessed a woman being attacked by a man with a knife, and he ran to her aid. The woman ran off. The assailant went the other way, but before he did, he stabbed Hugo. Hugo stumbled a few feet, and he fell to the ground in view of a video camera, a security camera from a local store. You can watch this. It's available on YouTube. And you'll see more than an hour and more than 20 people pass him by. Only one person did something. He took a picture with his cell phone. The coroner's report said Hugo died of non-life-threatening wounds. So you can witness this yourself. This is the bystander effect. And the community of activists that I've come to know reject the idea that we can live apathetic lives. We should look around for opportunities to be somebody's hero. It could be as simple as offering them a smile, or it could be as important as saving their life because you tap them on the shoulder. Are you okay? Well, now that I have a better idea of what motivates these individuals, the next step, pretty logical. I got to do it with them. Now, I'm not going to put on the costumes. I did that in high school. I'm not going to do it now. But I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder and see what this is like. I go to New York, and I hang out with this guy named Life, aptly named. The guy gives life. He shows up on the streets, and he helps the people that are in need of help. He's a very smart guy. He's a very compassionate guy. And this is what he tells me. If you're homeless, if you're living on the streets, or if you just don't look like you're in society, when people pass you, they look away. You're treated as though you're invisible. Imagine that, the world looking away from you. Instead, Life goes out of his way to make sure he sees people. And when he sees them, he looks them in the eye. He takes their hand and he touches them. He tells them his name, and he asks theirs, and he listens. Treating people with dignity is the greatest gift you can give them. So after several hours of walking around and simply trying to be a force of good and helping people, we ran into Todd. Todd was there with his pregnant wife. They were new in town. They'd been there about a week. Todd looked pretty good, but you know, it's tough in the streets of New York. And so Life gave him some food, and gave him a piece of paper, talks about city services. And as we were leaving, I pulled out a 10-cent razor, and I gave it to Todd. He said, "Awesome, I got a job interview in the morning, man, that's great." Life ran into Todd sometime later, and Todd had a job. He had a place to live, and his pregnant wife, now in her 3rd trimester, was living inside instead of out on the streets. Simple gesture. Simple, something like that. So, spandex, cape, underpants. For me, I think of the spandex that I wear as the way I present myself to the world. The idea that I can be in charge of how I greet the world around me. I live in an area of Los Angeles that is immediately adjacent to the largest homeless population in the city. There are people sleeping in tents on my block. There are people that I've come to know and that I consider family. They are my neighbors. They're part of my community. When I see Fanny walking down the street, her face lights up because she sees a friend. Now, my cape is that protects me and my family. And these people I don't know, they're all part of this family. They're all part of life. They're all part of our community. My underpants, well, that's just me willing to be me. I hope you all celebrate your underpants. I hope you all put on your spandex in one way or another. And my friends, the real-life superheroes, well, they wear spandex, so you don't have to. Thank you.